In this video, we'll cover Week 11 in NFL Survivor Pools as we break down the 5 games you should be considering, and it's coming up next. Hello, everyone. I'm Eric Lee.
And I'm Michael Wiley, and we're the Fantasy Football Consultants.
Michael, Week 11, we're still going at it, and that is really due to you folks. I think we really had decided starting Week 11 we would do a combined show, but the outpouring in the comments really meant so much to Michael and I. We talked about it. We thank you, and as a tribute to you, here's your Week 11 NFL Survivor Pool. But if I can quickly put a challenge to you guys. If you want to see a Week 12 Survivor show on its own, get us to 12,000 subscribers. Michael, we'll put the graphic on the screen. On our Week 11 show, only 62% of the people were not subscribed. Not subscribed. So only 38 were subscribed. If just like half of you who are watching right now subscribe, we'll easily go over 12,000 subscribers, and you guys will earn a Week 12 show. So do you think they'll do it, Michael? Do
They're
you
gonna
think?
do it. We're gonna. I'll take the over.
All right, you're confident. You must be a Jet fan. All right, so here we go. Let's break them down. There's only 5 games, but there are 5 really interesting games to talk about this week. Let's get right into it. We've got the New England Patriots on Thursday, 11.5-point favorites over the New York Jets. These next 3 teams, the favorites are on the road. Baltimore, 8.5 points at Cleveland. Houston and Green Bay are 7.5-point favorites at Tennessee and the New York Giants. And the game I'd like to start off with, Michael, the Pittsburgh Steelers, 5.5-point favorites at home against Cincinnati. Man, you know the story with Michael with Pittsburgh is, they always seem to have a sneak into the playoffs and then a first round exit. But man, how good is this Pittsburgh team after looking so bad against the LA Chargers this past week? Are they even as good as that? A team that makes the playoffs and gets eliminated immediately.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens are going to have something to say about winning the division. I think it's going to come. It's going to come down to the health of the Baltimore Ravens as to whether or not Pittsburgh can pull out the division win. But I mean, just to answer your question, the wild cards are up for grabs, and I think that Pittsburgh kind of has the inside look on it. And Aaron Rodgers has been very serviceable this year. He just didn't look like it this week. It was a little bit scary, I'm sure, for Pittsburgh fans. So I don't know. I mean, I'm a little bit nervous, including for this week against a Cincinnati team that's coming off a bye.
And I just worry about that Pittsburgh D. They just don't seem as vicious. They allowed 33 points to these same Cincinnati Bengals just 3 weeks ago, and the Bengals beat them. And this is the Bengals team with Joe Flacco as quarterback. They didn't have Joe Burrow, and I'm afraid of this game. I did it. So, but I will say on the other end, when we're talking about bad defenses, they don't get any worse than on the other side of the field than the Cincinnati Bengals. And maybe this is what Aaron Rodgers and and Jalen Warren and this Pittsburgh Steelers offense needs. The Bengals, Michael, lead the NFL in the points given up, 300. And week 11, so you go, oh, they allow 30 points a game. No, they've already had their bye. So it's 33 points a game that they have given up. So maybe this is what the Pittsburgh offense needs.
I think so. And, obviously going back home helps. It's tough to win in Pittsburgh. And I think Cincinnati's had some tough moments in Pittsburgh over the years, something to check out as well. But, I just don't know how confident I am in Aaron Rodgers. They have to run the ball to be successful. And even when they do, sometimes he'll miss targets. And, when there's any type of disruption, he looks like he wants to, he gets upset. And I don't, that's a problem. That's a problem.
It's worthy to talk about because most people already still have Pittsburgh in Survivor. And I got to tell you, if you don't use them now, there's not many other opportunities to use them. There's one in week 16. They host Miami. I know Miami has looked pretty decent the last couple of weeks, but this is a Miami team that would have to play in Pittsburgh, likely in very cold weather at the end of the season. So I don't feel good about this game. I'm going to pass. I like another game that most people have that team more than this one. So let's go on. Do you feel the same way? Or
I feel the same way. Let's stay away from this game.
Green Bay on the road, 7.5 point favorites at the New York Giants. Is it just? Are the Giants cursed? As soon, as soon as Malik Neighbors, most people thought probably their best player, he's out for the year. Cam Scatterboo looking really good and exciting as a rookie. He's out for the year. And this Jackson Dart has looked great. And now he's in a concussion. I don't know if he's going to be able to play. And I put that backdrop on you. Does your opinion of this game change whether it's Jackson Dart at quarterback or my old guy from Seattle, Russell Wilson?
Yeah, to me,
Emphasis on old.
Russell Wilson looks like he's just trying to cash checks. I've been pretty disappointed in the effort he's giving right now. He's afraid to get hurt, is what I see. I think there's a big difference between him and Jackson Dart, who looks like he's willing to get in the line of fire, although that could change post this injury. It'll be interesting to see how things shake up with Brian Daboll being fired earlier today. I completely understand what's going on there. They've lost 4 double-digit leads on the road. Looked like they had another win in the bag, and then they let it slip through their fingers again. Obviously, the injuries, had an impact there. But what about Green Bay on the other side of the ball? I mean, that was just the Monday night game. They could do nothing on offense. I know Matt LaFleur historically has a couple of these, games that don't look, very good. Their defense looked pretty good last night against, a relatively strong rushing attack in the Philadelphia Eagles. Their defense is good, but their offense is nowhere to be seen. Their tight ends hurt. They've got another receiver, a couple of receivers hurt. I think Dobbs had a chest injury. I'm not sure if he's going to make it back in the game. Jacobs loses that ball late. I think that offense is kind of hard to trust as well. So I'm a little nervous this game. It's in New York.
Yeah, and I just don't think, despite all their New York's injuries, they're not one of the 5 worst teams in the NFL for sure. And they've lost the games, but like you said, they could have won a lot of those games. And I've been preaching that this Green Bay team is so short of what we all thought they would be after the first couple of weeks. They've won a lot of games barely. And I'm a Josh Jacobs owner. I've been watching every one of their games really closely. He's been great from fantasy, but that offense is hurting due to the injuries you already pointed out. So we're both passing on this. But the next one intrigues me, Michael. Also a 7.5 point favorite. Houston is at Tennessee, and Houston is a team that a lot of people still have. And I feel like a broken record. Tennessee Titans are the worst team in the NFL, and I just continue to look great as the Jets picked up another win. Woohoo, Jets! The Tennessee had yet another game where they didn't do anything right on the field last week. They didn't score any points. Okay, all right, they were on a bye, but you get my point. They've been a disappointment every week. They looked the best last week because they didn't play. So you might go, well, wait a minute. How do these two teams match up? Well, they played already this year, Michael. 26-0. Houston skunked them. Do you share my disdain for the Tennessee Titans?
I do. I mean, you always worry a little bit about what a team could do coming off a bye. They kind of morally need to get a win. And it's a rivalry game, in division game. Those can always make you a little bit uncomfortable. I was at that Texans game, and that was a really nice comeback. It was really nice to see Jalen Mills come in. That was the typical story of the Jaguars getting too conservative too early, and just kind of giving the game away. And so it wasn't necessarily that it was, Jalen Mills and this, offense, coming to life and being so strong. But I do have to say that Houston defense is phenomenal. They're one of the best in the league. I think they're number one in yards given up. And they really kind of were handed a really big challenge. The offense turned the ball over right away. Then they gave up a punt return touchdown. And so, the Texans defense is for real, as we saw against Tennessee just a few weeks ago, but it was in Houston. I just get a little bit uncomfortable in these coming off by need to get a win games. Houston, yes, they have something to play for, but is CJ Stroud going to be back? Is that better? It probably is. So I don't know. What do you think?
Let me let you feel a little bit better. All the bye does for Tennessee is to figure out another way how they can suck. I am, you know what? Yes, any NFL team can beat any other NFL team. But are the Titans an NFL team? So okay, so all right, enough of the bashing. Let's talk future value. I think that would be the biggest argument to say, hey, maybe I should be saving Houston for another week. This is their best game, folks. They host Arizona, which I think is a very dangerous team to pick against. Certainly, Trey Benson will be back by week 15 if he doesn't get injured again. Yes, I'm a Trey Benson owner, so it's painful. And they host your Las Vegas team in week 16. I feel more confident at Tennessee than either of those two games that they host.
Yeah, you're making me feel a little bit better. Just because Tennessee's coming off a bye and needs to get a win doesn't mean they're going to somehow become an NFL team.
All right. Well, let's see the other options. I'm just saying Houston's on the table for me. What about Baltimore? Also on the road, 8.5-point favorites at Cleveland. I'll let you start this one.
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden Baltimore's healthy again, right? Which is, what they've needed to get. They figured out some of their problems on the defensive side of the ball. They've gone from being one of the worst defensive teams to a strong defensive team again. They're using their tight ends, they're using their wide receivers. They haven't really gotten their running backs going, which I'm sure for, Henry owners has been frustrating. But they made this last game a little bit too close. But, Cleveland, all of a sudden, I think Gabriel's been figured out a little bit. They haven't really been able to do much on the offensive side of the ball, even though their defense still remains, relatively strong. This game is in Cleveland. I don't know. I think Baltimore should be able to take care of business, but do they have some future value? What do you think?
Well, I think Baltimore is just a completely different team with Lamar Jackson. Now, I know he's not going to win MVP because he hasn't had it, but to me, he's proven he's MVP quality by seeing how good they are without Lamar Jackson and how good they are with him. It's not just how good he is. He makes Henry more because defenses have to be concerned about two different running threats. So, and they just torched Cleveland 41-17 with a healthy Lamar earlier this year. But here, I got some news. I'm out. There is no, so if you care anything about what I say, which, is about that eliminates half of our viewers. If you care anything about what I say, do not pick Baltimore this week. This is a terrible pick. Why? Because next week they host the New York Jets, by far the best game. So if you still have Baltimore, save them for next week. Now, you got to burn them next week, Michael. Don't believe some of these projection software that says, hey, a team has future value. They have almost no future value after the New York Jets. Why? You go, well, wait a minute. They faced Cincinnati twice. It's just been announced Joe Burrow is expected to come back on week 13. So both times that Baltimore plays Cincinnati, Joe Burrow should be the quarterback. This is not a team you want to pick against in Survivor, a Joe Burrow-led Bengal team. So I'm out. But are you intrigued still?
No, I mean, I think you're right. I look at the other options next week. For some people who have Detroit left, they have the Giants. Obviously, your Seahawks, if people haven't picked them, a lot of people did because they listened to me a while ago, if they're still listening to the show. But they're playing against your favorite team in the NFL, Tennessee Titans, next week. So you do have those options. But after that, if you don't have those teams available, this is the game to pick. So, yeah, save Baltimore for next week against the hapless Jets.
Really good point, Michael. Ask yourself, have you picked Seattle? Have you picked Detroit? If the answer is yes for both of those teams, I think you want to hold off on Baltimore for next week. All right, let's go to the game that Michael has almost half the people picking. It's New England. And the reason is very few people have picked New England so far, and they're the highest spread this week. 8-2 at home against the 2-7 New York Jets. There's a lot to like, but let me just immediately say I broke the curse last week. I picked again. I chose on this show to go with Denver on Thursday night. A lot of that was because the Raiders played overtime last week. Thought they may actually get hurt more playing on Thursday than Denver. But again, I don't like Thursday night games. There just seems to be
That
less
game was
rest.
another nail biter. I mean,
Yeah,
worst game in the history of NFL, it felt like,
yeah.
but it was, you were sweating it, I'm sure.
So I'm going to just express that as one concern. I have a lot more to say about this game, but I want to get you in here. What are some of your thoughts of this
Well,
game?
I'm super impressed, not just with Drake May. I mean, he's obviously the front runner for the MVP right now, which is really hard to believe. But Mike Vrabel, just what he's
Oh,
done with that team, just goes to show the star power he has within that organization. He has just motivated that team. It's kind of a bunch of, just kind of average Joes. We've seen that with New England in the past. He's bringing kind of that quality back. And this Jets team, they pulled out a win finally this last week. But they're just, Wilson, I think, is probably going to be out this week. That makes an impact. This is New England is clicking. They're at home. They're good at home. They don't have a ton of future value, but they have some. And so I think that's probably where you're going to go. In addition to maybe telling me why the Jets are going to be scary this week, please do.
here's what I have to say good about the Jets. Brees Hall. He is an incredible talent. Unfortunately, he was the entire talent last week because they got two special teams touchdowns against Cleveland. Now they probably would have lost that game.
Yep.
Um, I mean, Justin Fields throws for what, 54 yards for the entire game, and one of it was 42 yards pass touchdown to Brees Hall. So except for that one pass, he throws for 12 yards. When have you ever heard that when weather wasn't a huge,
Yeah.
determining factor?
Yeah.
So no, I don't like I mean, they miss Garrett Wilson. I mean, Garrett Wilson is by far their other best weapon besides Brees Hall, a real star wide receiver. He is definitely out this game in multiple games. So there isn't much to be afraid of. And if you go, well, what about New England's future value because they are a good team? They host the Giants in week 13. They're at the Jets in week 12. So by definition, this is a better game than going at the New York Jets. It's clearly a better game than hosting the New York Giants. So my pick this week is I hate pick popularity. That's the biggest reason to me to not pick New England. You're like, I don't want to go with the crowd. And if you feel that way, I give you permission not to pick New England. But if it was my survivor life, I would go with New England. If you do not have New England, my pick this week would absolutely be Houston. So if you pick New England or you just don't want to pick New England this week due to pick popularity, then I would go opt for Houston.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I mean, I think the one thing to look at is just take a peek at what you have available for that week 13 when they're hosting the Giants. There are some other games with what appears to be decent spreads that week. But it's going to end up being probably a pretty popular pick that week as well. And so if you don't have some of the teams that are stronger that week, maybe you want them now. But I feel pretty good about who else I have available. So I'm also going to go with New England.
All right, everybody. You guys remember the challenge. If you haven't yet on the way out, smash that subscribe button if you want your own Week 12 NFL Survivor show. Get us to 12,000 subscribers. We'd appreciate it as legitimately. And thank you guys for all your support. And we will see you next week.